A new beginning. A journey of kindness and love. On a sunny afternoon in Portland, Mary, a warm and graceful 35-year-old woman, walked through the park with her two kids, Lily and Ben. Her kind eyes and gentle smile made everyone around her feel calm, like a soft breeze on a summer day. Mary had a peaceful glow, but deep down, her heart carried a fresh wound. Not long ago, she'd found out her husband, Tom, had been unfaithful and even had a child with another woman. The news hit her like a storm, tearing apart the life she'd built. After a painful divorce, Mary packed up her things and moved with her kids to a cozy apartment in a quiet building, hoping for a new start. The apartment was small but bright, with big windows letting in golden sunlight. Lily, who was 10, loved drawing pictures to hang on the walls. Ben, 8, filled the place with his toy cars. Mary worked hard as a librarian, always making sure her kids felt loved and safe. She'd cook their favorite meals, read them stories at night, and listen to their giggles as they played. But sometimes, when the kids were asleep, she'd sit by the window, staring at the stars, wondering how everything had changed so fast. Across the hall lived a young man named Ethan, a cheerful guy in his late 20s with messy brown hair and a bright grin. He lived alone and always seemed to come and go at odd hours, his footsteps echoing in the hallway late at night. Whenever Mary bumped into him, they'd share a quick nod and a polite, "Hello." Ethan had a friendly vibe, but Mary was too busy with her kids and her new life to think much about him. She was still healing, and her heart wasn't ready to open up again. One rainy night, long after the kids were in bed, Mary heard a soft knock at her door. She peeked through the peephole, surprised to see Ethan standing there, looking pale and tired. She opened the door, and he gave her a sheepish smile. "Hi, Mary, I'm so sorry to bother you this late," he said, his voice hoarse. "Do you have any fever medicine? I'm not feeling great, and it's too late to run to the store." Mary's heart softened, she could see he was shivering. "Hold on," she said, stepping inside to grab a bottle of medicine from her cabinet. While she was at it, she heated up some leftover soup and poured it into a bowl. "Here," she said, handing him the medicine and the warm soup. "This'll help you feel better." Ethan's eyes widened with gratitude. "You didn't have to do all this," he said, taking the bowl. "Thank you, really." Mary just smiled. "It's no trouble. Get some rest." That night, as Ethan sat in his apartment eating the soup, he couldn't stop thinking about Mary's kindness. It was the first time in a long while he'd felt cared for. Over the next few weeks, Ethan found excuses to stop by Mary's place. Sometimes he'd knock and say, "Hey, got any snacks? I forgot to grab dinner again." Mary would laugh and invite him in, setting an extra plate at the table. She started cooking a little more than usual, knowing Ethan might drop by. The kids loved his visits too. Ethan would tell silly jokes that made Ben giggle. He'd show Lily how to fold paper airplanes. Mary noticed how comfortable her kids were around him, and it warmed her heart. She began to look forward to his knocks at the door, though she told herself it was just neighborly friendliness. One evening, as Ethan was coming home from work, he heard shouting in the hallway. He stepped out of the elevator and saw a woman yelling at Mary outside her apartment. It was Claire, Tom's new partner, accusing Mary of trying to win Tom back. Mary stood there, calm but hurt, trying to explain she wanted nothing to do with her ex. Ethan couldn't stand seeing Mary upset. Without thinking, he walked over and put his arm around her. "Hey, everything okay?" he said loudly, then turned to Claire. "I'm Mary's boyfriend, and you're upsetting my family. Maybe you should leave." Claire's face turned red, and she stormed off, embarrassed. Mary looked at Ethan, her eyes wide. "You didn't have to do that," she said softly. Ethan shrugged, grinning. "I didn't like her yelling at you. You okay?" Mary nodded, her cheeks warm. For the first time, She felt a spark, a tiny flicker of something new. Ethan's protectiveness made her heart skip, though she pushed the feeling away, unsure if she was ready. A few weeks later, Ben came home from school with a flyer for a family day event. It was a big deal at his school, with games, races, and crafts, but every kid needed their family there. Ben looked at Mary with big eyes. "Mom, can we go? Everyone's gonna have their parents." Mary's heart sank. She didn't want Ben to feel left out. But it was just her now. She hugged him tight. "Of course we'll go, sweetie." But she wasn't sure how to make it special without another adult. That night, after the kids were asleep, Mary took a deep breath and knocked on Ethan's door. He opened it, surprised but happy to see her. "Hey, what's up?" he asked. Mary fidgeted, then explained about family day. "I know it's a lot to ask," she said, "but would you come with us? Ben really wants a full family there. And, well, the kids like you." Ethan's face lit up. "Are you kidding? I'd love to. It'll be a blast." The day of the event was sunny and warm. Ethan showed up in a goofy baseball cap, making Lily and Ben laugh. They spent the day racing in sack races, painting t-shirts, and eating cotton candy. Ethan carried Ben on his shoulders so he could see the puppet show. He helped Lily win a stuffed bear at a ring toss. Mary watched them, her heart full. For the first time in months, she felt like they were a team, a little family, even if just for a day. When Ethan caught her eye and smiled, she felt that spark again, stronger this time. As weeks turned into months, Mary and Ethan grew closer. They'd sit on her couch after the kids were in bed, talking about everything. They'd share stories, her love for books, his crazy work tales, their dreams for the future. Sometimes their hands would brush, and Mary's cheeks would flush. Ethan would linger a little longer at her door, his eyes soft. Neither said anything about it, but the air between them felt warm and alive. One afternoon, Ethan invited Mary and the kids to a picnic in the park. They spread out a blanket, ate sandwiches, and played frisbee until the sun set. As they packed up, Ethan knelt to tie Ben's shoe, and Mary watched, her heart swelling. She realized she was falling for him, not just as a friend, but something deeper. That night, when Ethan walked her to her door, he paused. "Mary," he said quietly, "I really care about you. All of you." She looked into his eyes, her voice barely a whisper. "I care about you too." They didn't kiss, but the moment felt like a promise. What Mary didn't know was that Ethan's life wasn't as simple as it seemed. He came from a wealthy family, the only son of a powerful businessman, Richard, who ran a huge company. Ethan was supposed to take over one day, but he'd left home years ago after a fight with his dad. He blamed Richard for his mom's death, believing his dad's stress and neglect had broken her heart. Ethan wanted nothing to do with the family business. So he'd moved to the apartment to live on his own terms, working as a graphic designer to stay independent. One day, Richard found out about Ethan's new life and about Mary. He didn't like what he heard. To him, Mary was a complication, a single mom with 2 kids who didn't fit into the family's image. Richard showed up at Mary's library one afternoon, his suit crisp and his voice cold. "I'm Ethan's father," he said, sitting across from her. "I know you're close to my son, but you need to end it. He has responsibilities, a future you can't be part of. If you don't walk away, I'll make things hard for you. Think about your kids." Mary's heart pounded. She wanted to argue, to tell him how much Ethan meant to her, but fear stopped her. She thought of Lily and Ben. What if Richard made trouble for them? That night, she sat alone, tears falling. She loved Ethan, but she couldn't risk her kids' safety. The next day, she packed her things quietly, left a note for her landlord, and moved with the kids to a small house across town. She didn't tell Ethan, hoping he'd move on without her. Ethan came home that evening and knocked on Mary's door, but no one answered. He tried again the next day, then the next, his worry growing. The landlord told him she'd left. No forwarding address. Ethan's heart broke. He didn't understand why she'd vanished. He called her phone, but it was disconnected. For weeks, he searched, asking around, checking places she loved, like the library and the park. But Mary was gone, and he felt lost without her. Eventually, Richard called Ethan home. "You've had your fun," he said. "It's time to take your place in the company." Ethan didn't want to go, but he felt empty, like part of him was missing. He agreed, hoping work would distract him. He moved back to the family mansion and started learning the business. But his heart wasn't in it. Every night, he thought of Mary's laugh, Lily's drawings, Ben's toy cars. He kept looking for her, hiring a private investigator to check every lead. One evening, as Ethan sat in his dad's office, he found a photo on his desk. It was a picture of him, Mary, and the kids at family day, laughing together. He confronted Richard. "Did you do this?" he demanded. "Did you make her leave?" Richard looked away, his face tight. Ethan's voice shook. "I love her, Dad. She's not just someone I met, she's my family. If you can't accept that, you'll lose me too." Richard stayed quiet, but Ethan's words hit him hard. He'd always seen Ethan as a duty, not a son with his own heart. For the first time, he wondered if he'd been wrong. The next day, Richard called his investigator. "Find Mary," he said, "and fix what I broke." Weeks later, the investigator tracked Mary to a small town outside Portland. She was working at a bookstore, living in a modest house with Lily and Ben. Richard drove there himself, his pride heavy but his resolve stronger. He knocked on her door, and when Mary opened it, she froze, expecting trouble. "I'm here to apologize," Richard said, his voice softer than she'd imagined. "I was wrong to push you away. Ethan needs you, and so do your kids. Come back to him." Mary's eyes filled with tears. She'd missed Ethan every day, but fear had kept her away. "What about you?" she asked. "Will you make things hard for us?" Richard shook his head. "I want my son to be happy. That's all." That evening, Richard brought Mary and the kids to Ethan's new office. Ethan was signing papers when the door opened. He looked up, and his pen dropped. "Mary?" he whispered, standing. She ran to him, and he pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Lily and Ben rushed in, hugging his legs, their faces bright. Ethan knelt, wrapping them all in a big embrace. "I thought I'd lost you," he said, his voice breaking. Mary smiled through tears. "We're here now." Richard watched from the doorway, his eyes soft. He didn't say anything, but he nodded to Mary, a silent promise to support them. Ethan stood, holding Mary's hand, and looked at his dad. "Thank you," he said quietly. Richard just smiled and left them to their moment. Mary and Ethan built a life together, full of love and laughter. They moved into a house with a big backyard where Lily and Ben could play. Ethan taught Ben how to ride a bike and helped Lily with her art. Mary cooked dinners, and Ethan was always there to set the table. Sometimes Richard stopped by, bringing gifts for the kids, slowly becoming part of their world. Every night, as Mary tucked the kids into bed, she'd look at Ethan and feel a warmth she hadn't known was possible. They'd sit on the porch, watching the stars, knowing they'd found something real. No matter what came next, they had each other, and that was enough.